Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to the Girl Meets World review. Last time, we took a look at how friendships came apart and came back together in the two-part season premiere. This time around, we're back with the more lesson-based episodes in the form of identity and internet. Spoiler warning now, you know the drill. With all that said, let's dive into Girl Meets Jexica. So the episode begins with the students of Abigail Adams High filling out their profiles for the school's social media website. That kind of seems redundant in a world where Facebook and Twitter exist, but since Facebook was originally just a Harvard-based social media site, it functions as an effective enough parallel. Everyone save Riley seems comfortable enough expressing themselves online. This is valuable because it harks back to an important pair of episodes regarding Riley as a character, but we'll get there. So in light of her fears about being liked and accepted, she undertakes the pseudonym Jexica, and interestingly enough, it becomes so much easier for her to fill out her profile. It doesn't take long for Jexica to become a hit around the school, and even though Riley is enjoying the fame, nobody really knows that it's her, which leads to the focal point of the episode in the form of these questions. How much does social media and the internet define us? How much should it define us? When dancing cats have billions of views, and the discovery of a new planet has a fraction of that, what does that say about us as a civilization? But things start to get complicated when Jexica is asked by Lucas to join their friend group, but we later learn that he knew it was Riley the whole time, which isn't too surprising since any Riley-made profile would be way too colorful to miss. This prompts Riley to dress up as Jexica, thinking that it'll somehow fix everything, but Maya, and probably us as an audience, know better. But the episode as a whole is self-aware enough to recognize the same thing. For a second there, what with everyone dressing up as and embracing Jexica, it seemed like this episode might somehow turn into 22 minutes of Radio Rebel, which, as you'll recall, also featured a lead character who was a little afraid to express herself to others. But this episode doesn't go down that road, because this episode isn't necessarily about the power of expression, but more about the pitfalls of social media usage. Not much to say about the Augie-based side story this time around, as it's one of the more forgettable ones, in addition to being needlessly convoluted and messy. So Augie believes an email he gets about some prince offering him money, and somehow an obvious scam turns into a Cory and Topanga debate about trusting people online. Then it's an Ava email and she's in England for some reason, then Augie wakes up to Inception us, so there's no way to tell how much of the secondary plotline actually happened, and yeah. But for all the nonsensicality of this one, it did deliver some nice Cory and Topanga moments, even a nice flashback to the days of old. It just might have made the secondary plot worth it because of how little Cory and Topanga get to actually be a married couple on this show, compared to Alan and Amy of yesteryear. It always feels like Cory is just a teacher, and sometimes the father, while Topanga is just someone that has to watch over Augie while he's doing his own separate thing, but this was a nice change of pace on that front. Getting back to the plot, Riley becomes distressed because Jexica is losing her following, perfectly encapsulating how distraction-oriented our society can be. This leads to one of the best lines in the series so far, as Mr. Matthews drops some straight-up, unadulterated truth on us.
If something that's important to us today is so easily replaced by something else tomorrow, we have to wonder if it ever really had any value at all. What can we learn from that?
If nothing else, this episode got one of the strongest acting performances out of Ben Savage to date. He's been very good in a lot of very good episodes, but the way he taught in this one, not necessarily what he taught, although that's inherently important, but the way he taught, the passion, the wording, the intelligent questions that he posed, the truth behind it all. He was on his game today, and that needs to be recognized. So, the episode ends by teaching us that there's nothing wrong with some of the silly, sometimes absurd things we do on the internet, but at the end of the day, it's the people that know you best that matter most, because those people don't need an online profile to know who you are. But, as we'll discuss, there's a little more to the lesson plan than just being who you are. And that's Girl Meets Jexica. A pretty good episode, but not without its downsides. The entire premise of this episode is a smart one for a very important reason. The reason this episode exists is because Riley is afraid that nobody will like her online profile. But why does that matter to her? She's had real friends that have genuinely cared about her for years, so why is this important enough to bring her alter ego Jexica out of hiding? Because of two episodes that avid fans of this show know all too well. Girl Meets Flaws, and Girl Meets Rileytown. In Flaws, Riley's hidden insecurities become known, while in Rileytown, Riley is brought to tears through the cyber attacks of a bully still unknown to this point. It's a combination of what we learn about Riley through those two episodes, as well as a few other choice episodes where Riley goes through personality changes, that the idea behind this episode makes sense. Riley is still at a point in her life where she's afraid of what others think, especially online, since the last thing she wants is another cyberbully. But this episode pokes more fun at the idea than Flaws or Rileytown, which were inherently more serious episodes, so while this episode isn't as great as those, it's still enjoyable. But even though the plot is functional, it does feel that at this point, they should develop Riley in a way that involves more than just her insecurities. Farkle has developed in a multitude of ways in a multitude of episodes, so you'd think that the girl in Girl Meets World would be given similar depth. Not too much to say about the Augie side plot. It was weird, forgettable, and didn't really get the point across that they were trying to make. But, as I mentioned, getting in some good Cory and Topanga moments just might be worth it this time. The in-class conversations and discussions were probably some of the most relatable classroom scenes to date, and again, because it bears repeating, Cory Matthews gave it everything he had in this episode, and it shows. Just a beautiful performance on his end. And even though questioning the place of social media in our lives isn't a new discussion, the way Girl Meets World handled it is an effective critique of how overly important it can be to some people. And the bit about making points behind the security of a fake online profile was great to include amongst the larger talking points. All in all, this episode did well to balance out the sillier Jexica plotline with the more serious conversations about social media. Neither of the two felt like they had more screen time than they needed, although I wasn't overly entertained by a lot of the Jexica stuff. Again, Riley struggling with her identity is something we've seen time and time again, and while it's understandably an incredibly difficult thing to overcome, and some people never overcome it, in the context of a television show, there are more and arguably better places to go with Riley as a character, which I hope they'll dive into as Season 3 keeps moving forward. We've seen so many sides of Maya and Farkle over the course of the show, and we haven't seen as much of Riley just in terms of the challenges she faces. I love her character, I enjoy her character, and I want to experience more of her character. But even more important than that, Yogi got more than one line in this episode, and if nothing else, that's worth something. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and throw it on a like, subscribe for more, and share it all over social media, since that's what we've been talking about anyways. And don't forget to follow the Disney Brain on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Links down below. I was a little too busy in the real world to get the Teen Beach 2 DCOM review done this week like I wanted, but don't worry, it is coming. Followed by the Zapped DCOM review later on, a few more episode reviews, and then soon, we'll finally dive into Civilized War, as we debate which is better between Nickelodeon and Disney Channel, with all of you deciding on the winner. So, lots to look forward to. Until then.
The great thing about evolving is that we continue to grow and feel. Don't be influenced by somebody else's likes or clicks or favorites. Who should determine what you think?
Wikipedia.
You disgust me.